Welcome to Bigger Than You, the podcast to help you go from overwhelm, self-doubt and scarcity in your business to the calm, grounded and unshakably confident version of you that's going to bring your vision to life. You've got a mission and a purpose that's bigger than you and your limiting stories and beliefs. So let's get you out of your own way. I'm Jenna Holloway, your host and multi-award-winning intuitive hypnotherapist and mindset coach. Expect to hear game-changing perspective shifts on how to align your subconscious mind with your boldest goals, and will unlock the power of energetics, infusing it into every aspect of your life and business for maximum impact. Are you ready? Then let's dive in. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. And today I have a wonderful guest on the show who I actually met at an event in London a few months back. I'm really excited to share her with you today. And as you'll hear, she has a huge mission. And so she is perfect to interview on the Bigger Than You podcast. So Gayle Berry is a mother of three and the founder of Blossom & Berry, an expert on baby massage, baby yoga and nurturing care for babies, and the world's leading mentor for parent and baby businesses. She's also an author, a love activist and a community architect, and a speaker on Nurturing the Future, 1001 Days to Save the World. And she's the co-founder of an incredible charity called Love Support Unite, where she has enabled a safe motherhood project for mothers and babies in poverty in Malawi, and that has impacted hundreds of vulnerable babies. Welcome, Gayle.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here, and thanks for your patience to arrange this. You've been amazing.
Oh no, not at all. There's so many questions I want to ask you just off the back of that introduction, but first of all, can you just tell us a little bit about you, the person? Who is Gayle?
Oh, that's a good juicy question to start off with. Who is Gayle Berry? Well, first of all, I'd say I am love, like everybody else. I really truly believe that. I think we all are one. We're all part of this big beautiful web of life that we're in. So first of all, I would say I'm love, and that kind of manifests itself in pretty much everything that I do. Second of all, I would say I'm a mother. Most definitely. Like, that was the most defining event of my life that completely and utterly changed my life, totally transformed into a different version of myself, and continues to be one of the greatest sources of my power in everything that I do. And then I like to say I'm a love activist, because I do lots of different things. I love entrepreneurship. It's my art. And I have many businesses. I'm just about to launch 2 new businesses, which would mean I think I'll have about 5 businesses. And so when I say I'm a love activist, it's because that's the thread that really connects everything that I do. It's all about really my mantra, love creates love, which comes back to how I introduce myself, really, is that when we recognize that we're love, that we have this source of love available to us, we can fill ourselves up, and then we go into overflow, and then we can love other people, and then they feel the same, and we create this kind of ripple or wave of love, which then picks up momentum and can do great things.
I love that so much. And that wouldn't have come from nowhere. So where do you feel like, how has this evolved? How have you got to, how would that evolve?
Well, it kind of did come from nowhere, if I'm absolutely honest with you, because I was a lawyer working in the city. I started life as a lawyer working in the city. I had an unusual childhood. I didn't have a super connected childhood with my parents. My parents are amazing. They love me, absolutely 100%. But I was quite a lonely child and felt a little bit isolated. And I ended up taking a law degree, which really wasn't in alignment with me. I ended up getting a job in the city, which really wasn't in alignment with me, but I kind of kept going because it was like, oh, here's an opportunity. Like, I'm grateful for this. Let's keep going. And then I took a sabbatical after qualifying as a solicitor before I started like my real proper job in the city, going from trainee to fully qualified lawyer. And I went to South America, and it was on that trip that I really realized that I couldn't go back to the life that I had in London. I was really miserable. I felt I really just didn't want to go back. I remember sitting in an internet cafe, because there was no smartphones, there was nothing like that. You had to queue up for ages to wait for a computer in an internet cafe somewhere like in Peru. And I was desperately trying to Google, like, what can I do? Like, jobs to change from a lawyer, like literally kind of writing into the computer, like, what is the meaning of life? I was totally lost. And I basically got down on my hands and knees, and I prayed, and I said, I just don't know what I'm doing. Like, basically, you take the wheel, because I don't know. And 2 weeks later, I was pregnant with Emily. So that literally just happened unexpectedly. I was 26. I was not planning to have a baby. Like I said, I was on a sabbatical from my really big grown-up job in London that I'd studied 7 years to get there. They kind of gave me 6 weeks off, and then I came back with a baby in my tummy. So it really was like, for me, divine intervention. It was my daughter, which is why I always say and honor my daughter and say that she is my activator, because without being pregnant, I don't know, there'd be a different story. I wouldn't be here now.
Yeah, that got emotional as well. Okay, so what happened? How did we go from Emily to baby massage? Because was that the first thing, the baby massage?
Yeah, well, Emily was a very colicky baby. She was quite a fussy baby, and I was an extremely nervous new mum. I'd never held a baby before in my life until my own baby. So I was very in my head as well at that time. I was very in my masculine energy, working in the city, very linear. So I had all these books on like what to do, and none of it was working. And I didn't kind of think really, to be honest, about even like asking myself. I was just asking everybody else, what should I do? What should I do? And because it was really quite severe, her colic, someone just said, oh, do you want to go try a baby massage class? Which at the time, like, was really out there. I mean, it was really properly, like, everyone was like, what? Massage your baby? What even is that? You know, I mean, massage was still a little bit like, not, you know, it wasn't the well-being industry was not like it is now, you know, 20, 23 years ago. And so I went to the class, and I didn't know anyone, and I walked in and I sat down, and again, I was a bit like, what am I doing here? And then something just clicked inside of me. I started to do the massage. I sat with these other women. It was the first time I'd kind of been in a space with other mothers. And I just went, I'm going to be okay. I'm really going to be okay. Emily and I are going to work this out together. We can do this. And I just dropped into my heart, and I left that class a completely different person. So it's interesting that you said, did it suddenly happen? Because like, literally, this is the story of my life, is things suddenly happened to me out of the blue. And so when I left, I had decided that I was going to leave my career as a lawyer, and I was going to become a baby massage teacher, just in that 1 hour. And of course, when I told all my friends and family, they were like, what are you talking about? You know, you've got this amazing opportunity, you can go back, work part-time, you can do this, you can do that. And anyway, what is baby massage? And I was like, no, this is what I want to do. I'm going to do this. And I also wanted to be with Emily. Like, whatever I did, I was never going to go back to work fully, because I knew that being with Emily, I would eat baked beans and like never ever go out, like just snuggle in at home with Emily, because she was my priority. Being present with her was my number one priority. So it was just beautiful that I also received at the same time something which I didn't know at the time was going to be my life's work, if you like.
Amazing. And then, so how did the baby massage company transition into something that is clearly so much bigger than you? Actually, maybe before I ask that question, do you want to share a little bit about what else there is going on for you? Because I know that the people don't. I love your
yes,
mug,
what happened was I sort of so I started teaching parents and babies locally. I had 3 children under 3.5, so I went on to have my son Xavier and Casper very quickly afterwards. As you can imagine, it was pretty busy. But baby massage teaching really worked around my family. I really loved it. I was supporting other families, so I had a really beautiful balance, because I loved being a mum and I loved also doing my business, and I didn't put any pressure on myself. To be honest, anyone listening to this, I just want to say that it was actually a lot easier to balance motherhood and business before smartphones. Honestly, like, it's a blessing and a curse, because back then you couldn't check your phone, you couldn't go on Instagram, you had to like you waited until your children were in bed, and then you might go on the computer if you were like had enough energy. I think it is harder now because there's so much pulling us to look at our phones, and so I feel very lucky that I didn't have that experience, and I really feel the challenge of people who have it now. So I grew my business very organically, like locally, starting to teach parents and babies, and I worked for some children's centres, started getting a bit bigger. Then I started to lecture in a college in London, teaching people to become baby massage teachers. And that's really where Blossom and Berry started, because I realised I had my own way of teaching, and I'd sort of outgrown that school a little bit, because it was like kind of baby massage was one aspect of the whole school, which was holistics. So I started Blossom and Berry, and that's really when things started to expand. And I started to teach people via distance learning in the post, because there was no, like, I had a very basic website. There was no like Teachable, Kajabi. There was nothing like that. So I used to send out my work in the post, and then the files in the post, then people would mail me their work, and I would actually mark it with a pen and send it back to them. This is how I started my online training. So that went, but again, because I had young children, like it was perfect for me, because anything more would have just completely corrupted the flow that I had in my life. And then when my youngest went to school, I started to have a bit more time. Then obviously I took things online, and then it really exploded. And now we have like over 2,000 teachers across the world. We've got 5 international branches. We think we've probably impacted, well, the maths of how many people we've impacted, we can't say for definite, but it's in the millions of people that we've impacted through our work, through our community over the last 22 years. And I've been able to go on and give back from that place as well. And I absolutely love my work. I'm never ever in short supply of creativity or enthusiasm or motivation for my work after all this time. So it's just a heavenly gift that I am grateful for always.
Amazing. Because this is a mindset podcast, could you speak to us about any challenges that you have gone through in either in your business or balancing business and motherhood, something that sort of springs to mind that because we know it's not all about like all the wins and everything easy, like it's hard, isn't it? Like, can you talk to us about something that you've gone through with your mindset and personally?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm still doing it now, by the way. I'm still working through my mindset. It's not done, because obviously new things are arising all the time. I think that one thing that has always helped me is I've just had a conviction from the beginning that this is what I'm meant to do. And I was kind of a bit like, well, I can't lose, because there isn't anything else I'd rather do than this. So whether or not it's successful in inverted commas, I am always successful because I'm doing what I love. And that one, it's not a belief, it's just an actual knowing in my body that is my truth. That's the thing that has kept me safe through, obviously in 23 years there's going to be like turbulent times. I've grown the team, and then people have left the team, new people come in the team. Worked in Malawi, setting up my charity there, that there were some really big things to overcome. There was time when my business was small, I was working 3 jobs. So I would teach baby massage in the day, I would put my children to bed at 7, like all 3 of them under 3.5. Then I would go out in the evening and work in a cafe from about 7 till 11, come home, then they'd be all waking up in the night, and then get up at 6 a.m. to do a shift as a mum. And that's because I didn't have a flow of income at that time, but I didn't want to give up baby massage. I didn't want to give up being a mum primarily at home. I didn't want to give up. I didn't want to go back to get a job that didn't give me freedom. So I made a lot of sacrifices in that I just thought I'm just available for this. Like I was in a kind of like whatever it takes attitude. And I also dropped a lot of expectations. Like I didn't expect to go on holiday. I didn't expect to go out. I didn't expect it. I was just like, I'm really grateful that I've got this life that I've created. And that's more than enough. Like that's overflow for me. But like I say, I think I've been very lucky in my life that I get a lot of joy from my children. I receive a lot of joy from my children. Like, motherhood is not like that for everybody, and I don't want to come over like as this, you know, like holier than thou mother who has got it all down, like, and is perfect. It's got nothing to do with that at all. It's just in my body, I know that being a mother is the most fundamental thing for me in my life this lifetime. For other people it isn't, and there's no judgment or shame on that at all. It's just, for me, that's enough, you know, that's enough. That's my yummy love that overflows all of the time.
So much. And I love how you talked about this knowing of, it's never not going to not work, because you're already doing what you love, so that is success for you. And that, you know, dropping that expectations, all of that is just so perfect, and it can only come when you're doing your work, your own, you know, your soul's purpose work, the work that is truly in alignment. Because if you weren't in alignment, there's no way that it would feel that way. So that's just so good. Please, can you speak to us a little bit on what is the Nurturing the Future 1001 Days to Save the World?
Yes, I'd love to, because this is something I'm a complete geek on. So if you know me a little bit, but if you follow me, you'll know that, you know, I'm a very spiritual person. Like, I love, like, that's how I see spirituality, is love, it's unity, consciousness. But I'm also a complete geek as well, so I also love science. So the first 1001 days of life, from conception to 2, is the critical window that we have as human beings to activate potential in our babies and our children. Now, a lot of people thought that it was from the age from 0 to 7, you know, and as you did talk about limiting beliefs mindset, you'll know that that's the critical time that we're actually taking in beliefs from our families. The brain waves of children are actually kind of like theta state, so that it's almost like you're in hypnosis as a child. You don't have a filter, which is why it's so important to provide loving, nurturing care during the first 1001 days of life, because we now know that is when most of the brain wiring is happening, particularly in the emotional and the social brain. So it's the emotional social brain that is helping with nervous system regulation, because if you don't have a regulated nervous system, then you can't actually learn and go on to do a lot of higher functions in this with the same depth and impactfulness, because your nervous system could be triggered much more easily, and, you know, an unregulated nervous system causes all kinds of issues. So if we can provide safety for babies during the first 1001 days of life, we are giving them the most fertile soil to grow in. We are giving them what they will carry with them for the rest of their lives. And interestingly, I did know about this research. It's by a doctor called Dr. Bruce Parry, but there's now a new movement that's come out called the first 60-day movement. So I talk about the first 1001 days, which maybe some people who are listening are thinking, that's not long, you know, that's conception to 2. Now the evidence is it's the first 60 days after birth are the most crucial, because that's when the brain is most sensitive to nurturing, care and love. So if babies are separated, or if babies have trauma during this time, or if babies are left to cry for prolonged periods of time, like I'm talking in, say, like orphanage settings, or in very toxic families where there's not the capacity to hold babies' emotions, that what happens in that 60-day window profoundly now affects your brain. So if you have had a traumatic experience as a baby, but in the first 60 days you receive unconditional love, compassion and kindness, it will not affect you. You can heal basically from that experience. If you don't, then that can stay with you. That's what they're saying now, is that level of trauma can be embedded into your body. And as we know, the way that birth is in many countries around the world, it's not being midwife-led, woman-led, like sister-led. It's being medicalized, which means that people aren't having necessarily the births that they desire, which then impacts them and their baby. And also when we're pregnant now, you know, women are working right up to the moment they're about to give birth. Like all of these things, your baby is affected by the hormones that are produced during your pregnancy. So imagine your baby marinating in whatever hormones your mother is holding during that first 9 months. And you literally are, and there's footage of babies in the womb who are trying to clamp their own umbilical cords because they're experiencing stress. There's actual footage of this now, because they know that doesn't feel good in their bodies even before they're born. So I mean, it's absolutely mind-blowing. And I see babies as, you know, the seeds, the seeds of humanity. And so we as parents or pregnant people, like from carers, when we start this journey, we need to tend the soil, which means tending yourself. You are the soil. You know, so it's not like you have to sacrifice anything. You don't have to put your baby first. You put yourself first, because you are the environment in which your baby grows. So it's very, very powerful, and yeah, and simple, because it's available to everybody. Obviously throughout the world there's different things that are affecting mothers, and you know, I campaign around these things, like for sanitation, clean water, like all of these environmental factors and social equity issues. Yes. And you know, caring for yourself is the number one thing that benefits your baby.
I've literally been, you won't be able to see this on the podcast, but I've been nodding furiously for the past 5 minutes, because it's just so important, everything you're saying, and it was coming through so strongly as the reason why I pivoted last August. Before I wasn't working 100% with business owners. It used to be people in survival mode, and then it came through really strongly that I'm ready to pivot and work with business owners, because I work with business owners who have a mission that's bigger than them, you know, to make the world a better place. And so if I'm helping business owners help other people, it's just a bigger effect. And exactly like you say, when we are healing our limiting beliefs, it is also helping us to have a more regulated nervous system. And then obviously a lot of my clients are also mothers, so that passes that on. It's so important to be able to be the very best version of yourself, so that you pass on that to your children. And so yeah, just like I couldn't wave the flag of support.
Well, what's really interesting is that we know this as human beings who have a deep remembrance of this. We know that we need to slow down. We know that we should take care of ourselves more. We know we should sleep more and eat better. We know this. And so what's really great with like the first 1001 days of life is you can say, and by the way, here's all this science that also supports it. The trouble is that during pregnancy, the focus of mental health is not there. The focus is on like physical health, or even like birth preparation, which of course is important, because that's part of the process of the first 1001 days. But parents, the world that we live in, there's so much more focus on the physical preparation for babies, like your body, like the medical experience of giving birth, and the physical preparation of having a baby, i.e. the nursery, the pram, the this, the that, and the actual like sacredness of, like, I think this is really forgotten, is like you are growing a human being inside your body. Okay, you are a goddess, because you have created life. I mean, obviously you need a partner to help or you need to receive you know, whatever it is that you need to create that spark of life. And you are carrying that baby, or if you're adopting or welcoming that baby in, you know, you are the arms in which holds that baby. And so you are amazing. You know, you are a leader. You are so important and so valuable. And that's another thing that's part of Blossom and Berry, is this just raising the value of the unseen deep care that happens every single day in micro moments between parents, carers and babies, that is just not appreciated. And it's no wonder that, you know, women, there's so many different versions of motherhood, because we've been what motherhood is actually really fragmented, because sometimes we see it like this, sometimes we see it like that, but the ultimate truth of what motherhood is your truth, and you play it however you want, because that's your sovereign right.
I love that. I also want to go back to something, because it came through and it's still here, so I've got to say it. You know, when you said about during those first 1001 days, the baby can be traumatized if they're left crying. As I heard that, I was like, oh, I'm a twin mum, and there were definitely times when one had to cry because I was feeding the other one or changing the other one, and I was on my own a lot of the time. And so I heard what you said. You were very, very clear that that's not the case. Is if it's prolonged, or you know, there's not the love that goes alongside it. So I just wanted to say that, because I know that some listeners might hear that and then be straight up in their own head, worrying that if they were dealing with a toddler and they've got a newborn, they might be panicking what the damage they've done, and they haven't actually heard what you said next. So yeah, I just wanted to say that was not the case, right?
Yeah. I mean, why didn't you ask me the question? Did I ever let my babies cry when they were young? You know, the answer is yes, because it's also important to let babies express themselves. And as a mother, you know, they cry, you know, so I'm not saying don't let babies cry. It's very important to let babies cry. That's like me saying help, and you going shut up, I don't want to hear you. It's actually the opposite. There's nothing wrong with crying. In fact, it's to be encouraged. It's called expressing your needs and reaching out to communicate because you need help, which is what most of us don't do, because actually as babies we were told shh, come on now, come on, shh. So I'm absolutely 100% for letting babies cry in the best possible way that serves them. The evidence is that prolonged, and when I'm talking about prolonged crying in isolation, largely in orphanages or really like quite toxic home settings, you know, there's also the importance of self-soothing, so letting babies like feel their emotions and then being able to find a way to self-soothe. But in the first 18 months of life, it is important to say that babies can't regulate their own nervous systems. They need primary caregivers to do that. So that's why babies stop crying when you pick them up, because you're actually doing the job of their nervous system. So that's why this is the critical period. So I don't want to back down and say, you know, I think that it's important to honor your needs and honor your baby's needs, listen to your baby's cries, discern what is needed, and provide comfort and deep care. And what that looks like is going to be completely different for every single person, and definitely no judgment or shame around that.
That's such a key piece, isn't it? Like the whole stop judging yourself, stop shaming yourself, the whole mum guilt piece. Like I'm so anti mum guilt, because guilt is just such a low vibrational, unhelpful emotion that we unfortunately have learned, being conditioned to feel at some point. But actually there is a different way, and you can completely unsubscribe from the whole mum guilt narrative. It's not a badge, it's not a trophy to wear. Love yourself. Yeah. I think one more sort of closing question, Gayle. On the whole, like the whole love piece, or just in general, what do you feel called to share? If I ask you, what do you wish more people understood?
About babies and love.
Whatever you feel called.
There's
I know
probably
it's a big question.
It's probably two things. Well, first of all, obviously, my mantra is love creates love. And I think that's the forward, outward manifestation of love. I think that love is creation, because in every moment we're creating our reality. And so we get to choose love. And that could be, you know, like, I'm going to put these earrings on today. I'm going to have 5 minutes extra in bed. I'm going to call a friend. I'm going to like get up and write my book, whatever it is, you know, play football, go fishing, whatever it is that lights you up. So I think that is a really important principle, and one that I embody and have activated across all my businesses. The second one that's more of a later learning in life is also that love sometimes kind of whoops you up. us, like that's probably the right way to kind of describe it, is that sometimes love just comes as lessons, and to accept those lessons with grace. That love, sometimes if you're going in the wrong direction and things happen to you, I believe that's still what comes to you, still love, because it's actually in your highest good for something to happen, even though at the time we can't always see it. Now, obviously, sometimes there are horrific things that go on in the world, and I cannot make sense of those. Like, but what I'm talking about is like life redirection through love. If we can approach it with grace and acceptance, it makes life a little bit easier, because ultimately we can't control. And I think that's the thing, love and control they can't coexist. So like love is kind of being surrendered, and surrender is again one of the hardest places to go. I'm on a journey to surrender. I am 100% not there. I have moments and then I'm like, no, I need to hold on. Okay, I'm going to surrender. Oh, no, and it fascinates me now. It fascinates me to feel into this dance that I have with surrender and control. And like I say, it's I think it's the human condition. I think it's the human condition. The surrender is the knowing that you are divine and everything's always working out from you, and that because you're love and you're here for such a short time, that you're going to you can just relax and enjoy the journey. But then the human part, the ego, is no, but I want it to look like this, because this is what safety looks like, and because this is what I've been told, this is what I believe, and so this is what it needs to look like so I can relax. Actually, that is just a lot of noise, as you know, because you work with limiting beliefs. So that's the dance that I have.
That resonates so much, the whole accept what you're going through. It might not make sense. That when I accepted and got grateful for my reality, when I was going through an infertility journey, way before, back when I was still teaching, this life that I have now is so different to what I was going through back then. And it was so hard. And I was like, why is this happening to me? Everybody around me is getting pregnant. Oh, everybody around me is having their second, and I'm just struggling so much. And it made me, like, I literally am so different now because I went through that. And everything changed when I accepted and surrendered, and also learned to be grateful for what I had rather than what I didn't have. So yeah, just we're very much in alignment.
I mean, it's a really interesting one right now with what's going on in Gaza, because there's that whole like surrender into like what can you actually do, but then this is where I found a different kind of love, and that's more the lioness love, that's more the protective love. So sometimes love doesn't surrender, sometimes love fights, but there's a difference between fighting from a protective point of view for humanity and deep care, and trying to control, because I can't control at all what is going on in Gaza at the moment. However, I can activate more love in the world by calling that out and sharing and doing all the actions that I'm doing, whether it's a conversation or a post or an MP or praying or writing or painting or dancing or whatever it is. But like that is also love as well. So love, my kind of relationship with love, my evolution and transformation with love has gone from accept with grace, yes, like there is nothing you can do, and if you see something that is harmful to somebody else and it's caused it and there's not care there, that is love too, and that comes back to, again, like as a mother, you wouldn't let your child go right next to the fire. You might have to shout and say, get back, and that's what I feel like is happening at the moment for me personally, with a lot of, it's not just Gaza, there's a lot of social injustice, there's climate change, there's a lot of inequity that's seen and unseen. Like we're only seeing things currently that are being shown to us. There's unseen shadow, like in so many different things. So this is like a different evolution of love as well that's happened, I'd say, this year, with like the fact that, you know, I can see, because of the work I'm doing with babies, I don't want babies to be living in a world that is full of war and conflict and social injustice and with a dying planet. Like, so part of my work, you know, so I call myself a love activist, is to, yes, outwardly act, but actually inwardly act, like go in and look at where my shadow is actually causing the collective shadow. And if we all do that work, then that is really very, very meaningful.
Thank you for sharing that perspective as well. Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Gayle. Is there any, where can people find you, basically? I'm sure that a lot of people will be really inspired by this conversation. Where, if they want to connect with you, where can they find you?
Well, you can find me my business account. I run the Love Millions Academy. So I work one-to-one with leaders who really want to activate more love in the world, coming from an impactful place, wanting to impact millions, contribute millions, receive millions, and love millions. So that's my mentoring business, which is the Love Millions Academy. So you can find details of that at iamgayleberry.com. And then there's Blossom and Berry, which is my parent and baby business, which is blossomandberry.com. And then my charity is lovesupportunite.org, which we didn't really talk about today, which is kind of how we know each other. But we do work in Malawi around sustainable development, education, health, and permaculture. So they're the three kind of ways to touch base if you've been inspired. But just come over and say hi. Like, I always love to connect with people. I love listening to people's stories. So yeah, it'd be great to, if anyone wants to come over and say hi, you're welcome.
Brilliant. Thank you for being here, Gayle. You are amazing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, and I'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to the Bigger Than You podcast with your host, Jenna Holloway. If this episode has been valuable to you, please share it with a friend or leave a review.